area, we're talking about just two-dimensional shapes right now and how much we can fill. Like, for example, if I'm finding the area of this floor, right? The floor is a two-dimensional shape, right? So I want to know how much, if I wanted to paint it, how much area does the floor cover? Um, Now, does anybody know why? I know you all know this. At the end of area, we always put units squared, centimeters squared, inches squared, or you say squared inches. Does anybody know why we say squared, inches squared? Anybody know? Hey, the reason for that is when we're finding the area, we're finding how many 1 by 1 squares we fit in a space. So if I'm trying to find the area of this rectangle, I want to know how many 1 by 1 squares I can fit into that space. These look like rectangles, but they're supposed to be squares, right? So now, every time I find the area, I want to know how many 1 by 1 squares I can fit in a space. Do you think that's realistic every time you wanted to do that, to sit there counting the number of squares that fill a space? No. So that's why the mathematicians came up with formulas. And that's what we're going to learn in this chapter, all the different area formulas. And a lot of these you already know. So if we want to find the area of a square, there we go. If we want to find the area of the square, well, actually, I'm going to start off with rectangle first. If we want to find the area of a rectangle, most of you already know this. How do we find the area of a rectangle? It's the formula. Not one person knows how you find the area of a rectangle. Come on, guys. You've been doing this since like 3rd grade. Noah? Yeah, the length times the width, right? Area of a rectangle is length times width. We actually now in high school, instead of saying length times width, we call it base times height. So the area of a rectangle is base times height, where B is equal to the base and H is equal to the height. Now, if I wanted to find the perimeter of a rectangle, what do we have to do? If we wanted to find the perimeter of a rectangle, what would we have to do? To find the perimeter of any shape, actually. Jack? You add up all the sides, but in a rectangle, aren't the left side and the right side equal to each other, and the bottom and the top equal to each other? So if we wanted to find the perimeter, it would be base plus height, right? So it'd be 2 times the base plus 2 times the height. Or just add all the sides. So when in doubt, we want to find the perimeter of anything, we just add all the sides. Now let's think back to our quadrilaterals unit. There was a relationship between the area and a square and a rectangle. Is a square always a rectangle, sometimes a rectangle, or never a rectangle? Who remembers? Is a square always a rectangle, sometimes a rectangle, or never a rectangle? How many people say a square is always a rectangle? How many people say a square is sometimes a rectangle? People say a square is never a rectangle. Okay, a square is always a rectangle. Remember, didn't I call the square the queen bee? It had every property under the sun. So a square is a parallelogram. It's a rectangle. It's a rhombus. It's everything. So because a square is a rectangle, wouldn't all the formulas for the rectangle work on the square? So to find the area of a rectangle, it's going to a square, it's also going to be base times height. But what do we know about all the sides of a square? Aren't all the sides equal? So instead of doing base times height, to find the area of a square, we're going to do side length squared, where S equals length of one side. And perimeter, we're just going to continue to write add all the sides. So those are the only two formulas we're going to work on today. Skip some of these problems, not do all of them. Okay. So just to make sure we know how to use the formulas, right now we want to find, for the rectangle given, we want to find the perimeter. So we need to remember in a rectangle, the sides across from each other are congruent. So if the bottom is 24, the top is also 24. If the left is 16, then the right is also 16. And now to find the perimeter, we're going to add all the sides. So the perimeter is going to be 16 plus 16 plus 24 plus 24. 16 plus 16 is 32. 24 plus 24 is 48. So our perimeter is going to be 32 plus 48, which is going to be 80 centimeters, right? Because it says 16 centimeters, 24 centimeters. Write this here. So the perimeter is 80 centimeters. Now to find the area, who remembers what is the formula for area of a rectangle? What do we have to do? Area equals length times width or base times height. Now the height is always made with a right angle. I'm going to put a little star here and I'm going to say height is always made with a right angle. And that's not really an issue for the rectangle because aren't all the corners right angles? So we're safe. So I'm going to say my base is 24 and my height is 16. Now that's okay if you can't multiply that in your head. We're going to go 24 times 16. 16 times 4 is 24. Carry that 4. 6 times 2 is 12 plus 2 is 14. Put a 0 or an X as a placeholder. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. So now we add and we get 384. So now my area is 384, but now it's not just centimeters anymore. For area, we put centimeters squared. So now we're going to do a little bit of manipulation. I'll let you finish copying this. We ready? Anybody still copying? Okay. If the area of a rectangle is 51 meters squared and the width is 6 meters, what is the length? Because they're saying area of the rectangle, I'm going to write out my area formula. So area equals base times height, or area equals length times width. Do we agree? Those are the two formulas, same thing for area. But now they're saying the area is 51. Well, if they're saying the area is 51, shouldn't that go in for the A? So now when I substitute in, I'm going to say 51 is equal to, then they say the width is 6 meters. So that's why I'm using this formula. So 51 is equal to the width, which is 6. What is the length? We don't know what the length is. Because I don't know what the length is, I'm going to call the length X. Does everybody understand how I plugged in for this formula? Okay. Now we're going back to pre-algebra here. Do we agree we need to get x all by itself? Well, x and 6 are being multiplied. So to undo that multiplication with the 6, what should I do to it? Divide it. Very good. So I'm going to divide by 6 on both sides. So x is going to equal 51 divided by 6. 6 does not go into 51, but 3 does go into both of these. So what I would do is I would just simplify. I would divide top and bottom by 3. And so I'm going to get 2 and then 51. 3 goes into 51 once 17 times. So I would get x is equal to 17 over 2 meters. And that is what the length is. How come it's not meters squared? How come it's not meters squared? Good, because we just found a side length. We didn't actually find the area. They told us the area to help us find the side length. All right, next one. If the area of a rectangle, so once again, if the area of the rectangle is 80 inches squared, the length is 5 times the width, what is the perimeter? So there's a lot going on here. I'm going to draw a picture. See how it says the length is 5 times the width? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the width and I'm going to write that it's x. And then they're saying the length is 5 times that. So now how, if my width is x, how am I going to represent 5 times that? So the width is x and the length is 5 times that. So how do I represent 5 times x? Isn't it 5x? Okay. And now they're saying the area is 80. So we know the area of a rectangle is equal to the length times the width. So they're saying the area is 80, which means for A, I'm going to substitute in 80. And that's going to equal my length, which is 5x, times my width, which is x. Is everybody okay with how I've plugged in so far? Yeah? Okay. Now we need to remember our exponent rules. If I do 5x times 5x, that's going to be 5x squared. I'm going to divide by 5 on both sides. And then I'm going to have 80 divided by 5. 5 goes into 8 once. Subtract, bring down that 0. 5 goes into 30 16 times. So we're going to have x squared equals 16. Who remembers what we do now to solve for x? Square root both sides. And what's the square root of 16? 4. It should be plus or minus 4, but could I ever have a negative length? No, so that's why we're only showing positive 4. Okay, so now it's saying, what is the perimeter? Well, for perimeter, what do we have to do? Don't we have to, for perimeter, add all the sides? All right, well, I know that x is 4, so the left side is 4, which means the right side is 4. What's the length? If x is 4, the length is 5x. What is that? If x is 4, what's 5x? 20. So if the bottom's 20, then the top is also 20. So our perimeter is going to be 20 plus 20 plus 4 plus 4. So our perimeter is going to be 48 inches. See how there was a two-step process here? We had to use the area to find x to help us find the perimeter. So this is the difference between finding area in like elementary school or middle school where you're just plugging in to now bringing it into high school where we have to actually now do things and apply different things. Yeah. Okay, the ratio of the length to the width of a rectangle is 5 to 6. So we talked about this in the beginning of the year. The minute I take numbers out of a ratio, does anybody remember what I have to put with it? Stella? An X, exactly. So I'm going to put 5x and 6x. So now they're saying if the perimeter is 110, well, how do we find perimeter? Isn't it add all the sides? But I only have two sides. What about the other two sides? How am I going to know what those are? Stella? Yep. Remember, in a rectangle, opposite sides are congruent. So if the left is 6x, the right is 6x. If the bottom is 5x, the top is 5x. So when we have our perimeter is 110, we're going to have 110 is equal to 6x plus 6x plus 5x plus 5x. So we're going to have 110 is equal to 12x plus 10x. So 110 is equal to 22x. Divide by 22, and we get x is equal to 5. Maya, what do you think I'm going to now do with this 5, that x is equal to 5? Excellent. Now that I know x is equal to 5, I'm going to go to my rectangle and I'm going to plug in that 5. So 5 times 5 is 25. So the top and bottom are both 25. And then 6 times 5 is 30. So the left and right are both 30. So now my next step, now that I found all the sides, it says find the area. Well, the area is going to be the length times the width, or the base times the height. So we're going to do 30 times 25. And if we don't know how to do that, that's okay. We do 30 times 25, multiply it out. 5 times 0 is 5. 5 times 3 is 15. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 3 is 6. So that's 750 feet squared. All right, let's see something with a square. The diagonal of a square is 10. So once again, I need to draw a diagram. Now we need to remember some things about a square. Do we agree in a square all sides are congruent? Do we also agree in a square that all angles are right angles? There's one more thing we need to remember about the square, that the diagonals bisect the right angle. So if I'm bisecting 90 degrees, what does it turn into? 45s. Why is this important to know? This is important to know because now I have a 45, 45, 90 triangle. And we need to remember opposite the 45s are x and opposite the 90 is x root 2. So I'm going to say x root 2 is equal to 10. Now for me to solve for x, I have to divide by the square root of 2. Am I allowed to leave a radical in the denominator? Never. So now I need to rationalize. So I have to multiply top and bottom by the square root of 2. So we are going to end up with 10 root 2 over 2, which is 5 root 2. So what does this mean? This means every side of this square is 5 root 2. I'll let you all catch up. So now it says find the perimeter. So the perimeter is 5 root 2 plus 5 root 2 plus 5 root 2 plus 5 root 2. So remember, you just add the numbers in front. 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 5 is 15, plus 5 is 20. So our perimeter is 20 root 2. Now for the area, isn't the area for a square side length squared? So to find the area, I have to do 5 root 2 times 5 root 2. And if you guys remember when we learned about radicals, you multiply the outside numbers. 5 times 5 is 25. What's the square root of 2 times the square root of 2? Whole number 2. So our area is 50 units squared. So I'm just going to put U for units. 50 units squared. I'm going to skip number 6. Let's go to number 7. Okay, so this is obviously not any shape that we know how to immediately find the area of. But what I can do is I'm going to draw my own lines to close them up to make rectangles. So if I draw a line here and I draw a line here and here, haven't I created a bunch of little rectangles in that interior space without really changing the interior space? So what we want to do is I want to find area 1. Here's area 1, area 2, or let's call them A, B, and let's use variables, not numbers. So this is area A, B, C, and D. And I'm going to find area A plus area B plus area C plus area D. And if I find all of those areas and I add them up, wouldn't that be the total area of the figure? That's what we want to do. All right, so area A, it looks like the height is 6 and the base is 2. Do we agree? So 6, and how do we find the area of a rectangle? Base times height. So what is this? 6 times 2 is 12. All right, now let's go on to area B. Area B is going to be a little bit trickier. So see this 7 that was there? It looks like that's the base of area B, but it's not. That 7, wasn't that 7 originally there? So that whole thing was 7. So now we need to find the base of area B. Well, in area A, if the top is 2, isn't the bottom also 2? Which leaves how many units for the base of area B? 5. And now for the height of area B, so we got the base of area B is 5. Now for the height of area B, see how area 1, the height is 6 and opposite sides are congruent? Is everybody okay with how I got that 6 there, the green 6? So, and if this top little part is 2, what's the total height for area B? 8. And then 8 times 5 is 40. So now that's area B. Let's go on to area C. Now area C is this small little rectangle where the base is 2, right here. But now I need to find this height. Anybody have any idea on how I can find that height? How can I find that orange height? Well, isn't this left side 8? So then this right side is also 8. And the bottom is 5, which means this has to be 3. So now we're going to do 3 times 2, which is 6. And now our very last area is area D, which has a base of 3. Jonah, what do you think the height is of D? Yeah, it's 8 because it's the same height that we've been using, right? That same height we've been using for the total height here. So then our height is 8. So now this area is 24. And now we add 12 plus 40 is 52. 6 plus 24 is 30. So our area is going to be 82 units squared. And that's how you find any area in a weird shape. You just split it up into shapes that you know and find the area of each shape and add it all up. All right, our last problem for today. It says a rectangular picture measures 12 centimeters by 30 centimeters. It is mounted in a frame 2 centimeters wide. Find the area of the frame. When I'm asking for the area of the frame, you see this, what I'm shading in yellow right now? That's what I'm trying to find. The yellow, just the yellow. And these 2's that I have written down should have had arrows. So the 2 should have shown from here to here. And this 2 should have shown from here to here. Okay. So now I want to find just the yellow. Do we all agree we have 2 rectangles here? We have the bigger rectangle and the smaller rectangle. Now, if I find the area of just the smaller rectangle, wouldn't it just be this white area? But now if I find the area of the bigger rectangle, wouldn't it be this whole entire thing? So the small rectangle is too little, right? It's not what I need. And the big rectangle would be everything, which is too much. Any guesses, just generalized game plan, on how I can find the area of just the yellow part? So the big rectangle is too much area. The little rectangle is not the area we want. Any ideas on how to find just the yellow rectangle, the area of just the yellow? Guys, you're giving me nothing today. How do we find just the yellow area? You got it. To find the area of the yellow, we're going to do the area of the big rectangle minus the area of the small rectangle. But now I don't know the dimensions of the big rectangle. I know the small one has a base of 30, and I know the small one has a height of 12. But they did tell us that we were the 2 centimeters wide all around. So do we agree that from this 12, I'm going to have 2 inches to the bottom and 2 more inches to the top? So the height of the big rectangle is going to be 12 plus the 2 on the top, which is 14, plus the 2 on the bottom, which is 16. Okay, now I need to find the base of the big rectangle. Now the base of the big rectangle, the base of the little rectangle is 30. But then I told you it's the 2 centimeters wide. So aren't I adding 30 to the right? I'm sorry, 2 to the right and 2 to the left. So my total base of my big rectangle is going to be 30 plus the 2 on the right, which is 32, plus the 2 on the left, which is 34. So to find the area of the big rectangle, I'm going to do 34 times 16 minus the area of the small rectangle is going to be 12 times 30. All right, so if we're doing 34 times 16, we are 544 minus 360. So the area of just the yellow part is going to be 184 centimeters squared. Okay, so we are done for today. You do have homework. I'm going to take off